Let me ask you, are there any progressives in the house today? Are there any people in this room who are psyched to win some elections this year? Can I get an amen? Is anyone here psyched to run and win on your progressive values? Look around this room of 450 candidates from over 45 states. Is anyone here prepared to not just get the skills you need to win, but to build a network of people that you will be building political power with for years and years to come? Who here is prepared to have your eventual victories stand for something beyond just yourself, including sending a message to that guy in the White House and proving that progressives can win anywhere across this country? And is there anyone here who's a little bit excited to see Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Keith Ellison in the next couple days? Excellent. Well, my name is Adam Green. I'm one of the co-founders of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee. And on behalf of myself and my co-founder, Stephanie Taylor, on behalf of our entire PCCC team that's been working so hard to put this event together, on behalf of our million members, on behalf of our many partners for this event, including our lead partner for this event, the great folks at Our Revolution, we are pumped to be here with you. And over the next 4 days, over the next several months, and for years in the future, we consider ourselves to be partners in the trenches with you, learning together, working hard together, winning together, but also growing progressive power together for the long term. Now, you might notice in the back of the room and throughout the conference that we actually have a lot of reporters who consider this a major event. And we had an AP/New York Times article up there a little while ago that was printed this morning. Yeah. And our amazing training director, Lucy Olina, will be talking about the norms around reporters and what's on the record and off the record a little bit later. But it's worth just taking a step back and looking at, what is, in the big picture, what does this training represent? To the political masses out there. Well, first, this is the largest training this cycle of resistance warriors who have made the bold decision to run for office anywhere in the country. Again, 450 candidates strong from over 45 states. Let me ask you, raise your hand if over the last year you have participated in a march or protested at an airport or gone to a town hall meeting or some other resistance event. Keep your hands up in the air. Keep them up. Look around this room. Give each other a round of applause because you are activists, and there is no greater act of resistance in this moment than making the bold decision to run for office and change what is done with power. Thank you. Now, of note, there are some people in this room who have already won elections. We have folks in this room who have already won elections for school board and city council and mayor and state legislature, and they are running for re-election or for higher office. And we are so glad to have you in the trenches with us. But it's notable that 80% of the people in this room are first-time candidates, which is a symbol of our time, where good people across the nation are stepping up to run for office. But you know what? This 450 candidate training stands for something even larger than just resistance. Who here thinks that Democrats should not just resist, but we need to stand for something? Yes. So let's be very clear. If there is a mantra for this training, it is this: that in order to maximize a wave this November, we need bold, progressive, inspiring candidates running up and down the ballot. We need people who will connect authentically with working families, on the issues they talk about at their kitchen tables every single day. Who agrees with that? Well, that's good to hear because, believe it or not, the question of whether we should run inspiring candidates is an area of debate within the Democratic Party. There are some who urge Democrats to run as Republicans in purple and red districts across this country. There are some in the pundit class or the political establishment who have a fetish for the blue dogs of yesteryear, who actively ran campaign ads bragging about how they voted against Obamacare and bragging about how often they voted with the Republican majority here in Washington. Well, fittingly, there are almost no blue dogs left in Congress today. And that's because when you run as a Republican light against a Republican, you just validate Republican ideas and voters vote for Republicans and Democrats lose. Now, there are some that also say maybe Democrats should run on nothing this year. Just be anti-Trump, just be on the ballot, run cautiously, keep your head down, don't stick your neck out, and people will just vote for you because they're so mad about things. Well, that's the best way to demoralize and demobilize our base possible. But you know what else it is? For many working class people who could vote Republican or Democrat, all that does is let Republicans define the agenda for that set of people. And then they go to the polls based on hate-mongering and scapegoating and fear, and oftentimes vote against their own interests. So we need to show up and be counted and inspire people on our values. As my co-founder Stephanie says, we can't just drag people to the polls, we need to inspire people to the polls. And during this training, we are going to show you polling, showing without a shadow of a doubt that big progressive ideas like expanding Medicaid benefits and Medicare and Social Security benefits is overwhelmingly popular with the American people, not just Democrats, but Republicans and independent voters as well. That the idea of repealing the Trump tax cuts for the rich corporations and the top 1% and using that money to create millions of jobs across our communities, repairing our roads and bridges and schools and having high-speed internet and jobs of the future, overwhelmingly popular in red, purple, and blue areas. Things like debt-free college, not just tinkering around the edges of interest rates and stuff like that, but making college debt-free or having free tuition, overwhelmingly popular. So that will be part, we want you to leave this feeling emboldened to go back home and campaign on your values, knowing that's a winning strategy. But again, just for the cynics out there and for the pundits, it's important to say, when we advise everyone to run on their bold, progressive, inspiring values, what we are saying and what we are not saying. Progressives believe in a big tent, and we're often asked the question, what does it mean to be progressive? Has anyone here ever gotten that question? We're asked that all the time by reporters. When Stephanie and I do C-SPAN, every time somebody calls in and says, what does it even mean to be progressive? And some people try to divide us on this question. Do you support economic stuff, or do you support racial justice, or do you support equality for women, right? Well, I would like to take a stab, if I can, at one unifying principle that unites us all as progressives, and ask you what you think. I would put forth that what unites us as progressives is that we are willing to fight to improve life for everyday people and challenge entrenched powerful interests together. Whether those powerful interests are systemic racism, or those who would not pay women equally in the workplace, or corporate CEOs that would abuse workers or foreclose on people's homes. We are willing to challenge power and fight for everyday people. How's that sound to you? Excellent. And we believe in a big tent. We are not saying that everybody needs to campaign on the exact issue in the exact same way in every location in America, but whatever we campaign on should represent that core progressive value. So I'll tell you, I spent a year in South Dakota, right after 9/11, in one of the top US Senate races in the country. This is a year that war hero Max Cleland lost in Georgia, running for re-election to the Senate. Current Senator Jeanne Shaheen from New Hampshire lost her first race for Senate that year. We lost the Democratic Senate majority. We got wiped out across the country. The way we won by 524 votes statewide in South Dakota that year was that there were a lot of pro-life, pro-gun, culturally conservative, church-going farmers and ranchers who were willing to vote for someone they knew was a pro-choice, socially progressive Democrat because we made economic populism issues front and center that year, specifically protecting Social Security from privatization and protecting little guy family farmers from being taken over by big ag corporations. That's what challenging power looked like in South Dakota. And maybe in a place with a lot of senior citizens like New Hampshire, we're not talking about big ag, but we're talking about the high price of prescription drugs and how the big pharmaceutical companies buy our politicians and then prohibit Medicare from negotiating lower price prescription drugs for our veterans and our seniors. And maybe in a place like Nevada, where we had the #1 set of home foreclosures during the crisis, we're talking about the big Wall Street banks and taking them on and challenging them. And maybe in clean energy states like California or New Mexico, we're talking about big oil and what they're doing to pollute our rivers and our air. It can look like different things in different places, but what brings us all together is we're talking about a common set of values. We're not talking about deregulating Wall Street and giving tax cuts to the rich and voting against Obamacare. Right? We're directionally moving in the same direction. And that's what unites us as progressives. So again, as we say that the mantra of this training is that in order to maximize the Democratic wave this November, we need to run bold, progressive, inspiring candidates up and down the ballot. Let me ask you, are you with us in the trenches on that mission? Are we building power together the next 4 days? Are we going to win not just Democratic victories, but progressive victories up and down the ballot in every state in America? Excellent. I think we're all on the same page. And with that, I would like to introduce you to someone, my partner in crime, really the godmother of the national candidate training. This was her brainchild years ago, back when it was a 25-person training that went around to Florida and New Hampshire. We sucked it up and went to Hawaii one year. It then grew into this national candidate training, 200 people, 300 people, 450 people. So many of the great ideas that we do at the PCCC come out of her head. So proud to welcome to the stage my co-founder, Dr. Stephanie Lynn Taylor.
Hello. Thank you, Adam. Welcome to our 3rd annual National